What's up, guys? It's Tom from Chalking Fitness. It feels a long time since I've been in front of the camera, but with the Rogue Invitational that took place the weekend just gone, I really wanted to sit down with you and talk about some elite level CrossFit. And so I reached out to Jason Croxton, who is the host of the official CrossFit Bath podcast. We've spoken in the past. I believe it was at the beginning of lockdown. We were discussing what we were discussing. We were discussing kind of like staying motivated, home workouts, and I think my lockdown beard was looking a little bit less weathered. But there we go. So trying to look respectable for the camera. So Jason, thanks very much for joining.
That's all right. I'm happy to be here. My lockdown hair was a lot less at the start of lockdown as well. So, we're all in the same boat, aren't we?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I for one, have kind of the weeks and the months have kind of blurred into one. And I'm like, when did we talk? What year was it?
Honestly, I had forgotten that it was during lockdown. I assumed it was before. And then when you mentioned about staying motivated during lockdown, I was like, yeah, that was a huge part of our conversation. So it must have been during lockdown. So, wow.
But Jason, you've been an admirable effort of putting an episode out a week, haven't you, on the CrossFit Bath podcast during lockdown with a different guest every time.
Yes, that's almost didn't happen this time, but a very last minute guest came through. But yes, I've been doing that. I thought that would be a nice way to distract people during this period of time. And maybe it has been, but I think potentially the Rogue Invitational was an even better way to distract people during this period of time. So,
Yeah, and I think everyone should definitely check out the CrossFit Bath podcast. But today I was really grateful to kind of have you on to chat as a fellow fan of elite level functional fitness, CrossFit. It's incredible to watch the athletes that put so much into their training and have got to such a level that can sometimes be almost unbelievable. And there were many examples of that over the weekend.
Yeah, and it's worrying, isn't it? Because we are going to sit here and we're going to praise some people, and no doubt I don't want to say criticize, but we'll have some observations about others, even though we really are not in the position to say anything, because as you said, the level across the board is so high. So it is, comparing this athlete to another athlete who was there, who was just better, both massively better than me. I am under no false conception that I should have been there. I don't belong there. I would have struggled with most of the women's weights. So I'll put that out there. But it is incredible to watch. Yeah, I've missed it. I tell you what. I know people have missed sport in general during lockdown. That's been kind of a comment people have made. I don't watch any sport apart from like CrossFit competitions. So I hadn't sort of realized, I'm missing it, because it's only really in the last year that we had so many sanctional events that were streamed that you could watch. So it's quite normal that you don't watch any CrossFit until, regionals and then the games. So it wasn't something that I was aware of missing, but getting a chance to watch it, I was like, oh yeah, I do enjoy this.
Yeah, and I was having a look at the kind of competitive calendar just before we kind of got on the call, and one thing I worked out is that the last sanctional, the last whatever you want to call them, it was the 6th to the 8th of March, which was over 3 months ago. And back in March, I remember listening to Tommy Marquez and Sean Woodland talking about on their Talking Elite Fitness that we had a sanctional event every weekend until like the end of July. And then what we saw only a week later was on the Friday night, I believe, of the planned Atlas Games in Canada, they had to close the event at the last minute because of kind of the lockdown and how quickly that was being applied, not just in North America, but around the world. And we very quickly were seeing sanctionals, especially in Europe, having to postpone, And there was a real domino effect. And I don't think there's a single sanctional now that has not either cancelled or postponed to kind of and just said, you know what, this season we're stepping out. And with everything else that's going on in the kind of CrossFit organization at the moment, I think there's going to be, who knows what will happen next year and in what format. But the main thing is I think everyone was gearing up at the beginning of March for an exciting summer of kind of elite level CrossFit on the run up to the games. And it just completely has not gone that way, for one.
Yeah, the Atlas Games was, I mean, that was quite devastating, because I actually had Arm & Hammer on the CrossFit Buff podcast, who was there when it all got cancelled. And, you know, and that was an interesting story, because his wife had quit her job to start traveling with him to cover all these sanctioned events full time. And like, that was, they were putting all their eggs in that basket to like, this is what we do now. She's a nurse, so she managed to get a job pretty quickly when they got back to the States. But I remember that the Atlas Games had this massive problem getting the equipment, and they weren't sure it was going to happen initially because they couldn't get the equipment. And then they really pulled off kind of a modern day miracle to get the equipment there. And it was like, this is the worst possible thing that could have happened, but we solved it, only to then get told. And it was the venue that were not going to let them I think the exact wording was that they were like, yeah, you can start, but we can come in at any time and stop you. So it might be like, maybe the first day they got through one or two events, but then someone came and pulled the plug. And it was kind of like, well, it's better to just cancel it all than make people do half a job and you know, have to take it all down after that. It's interesting also with the games that's still very up in the air, because one, as you've mentioned, the current CrossFit climate, and a number of athletes are, you know, boycotting the games basically. And then apparently even the situation with COVID there is in flux, and potentially is ramping up again a little bit. So initially there was thought that they would be allowed to have it because of how lax the lockdown situation was. At the moment, I think it's still the same, but there is the potential that they might impose stricter restrictions, in which case it might be that even if they want to have the games, they can't. And I mean, ultimately, even if they want to have the games, it's going to be the American games, because the chance for international athletes to get there is pretty slim at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and I remember I did kind of talk when they started, you know, that they rescinded a number of invites. They were like, actually, there's going to be no teams. They're going to change the way the invites are distributed through the Open and the Sanctionals. And it suddenly became like, well, don't try and still call this the CrossFit Games to find the fittest on earth. Yes, we might have still ended up with the same people on the top of the podium, but don't kind of do a disservice to those that haven't been able to kind of get the same opportunity that they would have done at the beginning of the season under kind of non-COVID-19 pandemic conditions.
I think it was going to be interesting anyway, isn't it? Because the way the way the season works, you know, you don't know when someone is really planning to get their invite, if that makes sense. You know, that might be that I'm going to this sanctional, and if I win, great, but this is more of a tune-up, because actually my programming means I'm going to kind of peak closer to this time, ready to run into the, you know, people have their strategy. They're all trying to work it out, aren't they? So it's a little bit odd that those that got their invite through sanctions were still going to go. Those that were national champs were not. Obviously that changed also the numbers in the top 20, and it just shook everything up. It was all going to be a bit odd. Great to have a competition, and, you know, maybe donate some money to charity and give it another name, and it could just be kind of the ranch throwdown, something like that would have been fine. But yeah,
who knows? I think everything.
Who knows?
Outside of, one of the things I've found as well is that, like, you know, I'm a huge fan of the sport of CrossFit, but also the community and kind of like what it's given to me over the years that I've been doing it. But equally, it is actually a relatively small bubble on the kind of grand scheme of the world, you know, that there's such flux kind of globally at the moment. You know, lives are being irreversibly impacted, and, I found myself getting drawn into that kind of like, what's going to happen to the games, and then more recently what's going on with the CrossFit community, and I'm trying to keep some perspective on that, just because of everything else that's going on as well. But I think one thing, and like kind of, I guess, as focusing on the love of the sport, is that we're being faced with adversity, and there's been no shortage of kind of like event organizers getting innovative by offering online competitions. Whether it be the Norwegian guys that they offered the kind of like the living room throwdown, and there's been so many others, and there were a number of sanctionals that very early on, probably back in April, were talking about trying to take their competition online. I think the Italian Showdown were the first to do that, and the Rogue Invitational, I think, followed shortly after. There was some politics back then about whether that was going to mean that they could no longer be deemed a qualifying event, but I think Rogue Invitational were very quickly to be like, we're okay with that, we're going to do it, almost as, they've been synonymous with the sport of CrossFit and functional fitness, that they were like, well, we're going to do it for the love of the sport rather than necessarily the invitational or the invite that it offers.
Yeah, and I think, I guess, with Rogue anyway, and it was the same. I mean, if you think Chandler Smith got the invite last year, and he was amazing there, but I mean, how many places it dropped to get to him, because the level of competition at Rogue meant that nearly everybody already had their invite. There were few that were fighting for it, and it was the same this year. So it's not, if they're saying, well, look, we don't really care about the invite, they don't, because they've already got the top players there. So that's not the draw for Rogue, is it? I mean, it is for the few that are vying for their invite, but that's not why most are going there. It's because it's got a good prize purse. It's a well-run competition. You've got the best equipment, the best people, the best like all the people running things behind the scenes are people that did do the game. The level of production, and I think when they announced going to do it online, you mentioned before, other people had done stuff online initially, and I think that was the fear, right? Like you kind of see how a little small scale competition works online. I mean, even the support your local box thing was like, oh, this is a competition that everyone can do at home. All get in and support your local box. And then nearly every workout required you to have a piece of equipment that most people didn't have, especially at the very beginning of lockdown.
Yeah.
And I remember myself thinking a bit like, this is supposed to be inclusive, but I'm seeing now the limitation of doing something online here. And obviously that wasn't going to be the case with Rogue, but you do think, don't you, like, oh, how's this going to work? Everybody from their own gym, it seems a bit weird. Like you see the open submission videos, and that's all you can really imagine, right? Is just sort of 12 people's open videos with, a dodgy camera that sort of can't really see the line on the wall from across the room. It's like, I don't think that's going to be an enjoyable competition to watch. So I was wrong, by the way. Spoilers. Spoilers for this. I was very wrong.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say, so for anyone watching who was either not aware that the Rogue Invitational was taking place the weekend just gone, or hasn't watched any, the production quality is phenomenal, and the amount of the logistical planning that has gone into it is just amazing, that they've created that during lockdown, but also managed to execute that during lockdown.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched it, it's all on YouTube, and it's all on their website as well.
Yeah.
And some nice individual on YouTube has, in the comments, time-stamped all the kind of heat 1, heat 2, heat 1 of the women, so you can very easily navigate and watch through this. And as you said, it's well produced. And I mean, you had like Sean Woodland calling. There you go. That's just that's just the voice you want to hear when you're watching people suffer.
As someone who's watched the games for many years, if you don't need to be in the room. If you hear that voice, you kind of go, I know what's on TV. So and a little bit then more detail before we kind of maybe get into some of the kind of the meat of the weekend, is that you'd already mentioned that the caliber of the athletes at the Rogue Invitational is with last year being the first time is just amazing. It's called an invitational for a reason. They invite the top 10 males and females from the 2019 CrossFit Games in this case. And then there were another kind of number of athletes that were invited, and some that qualified through what they deemed the Q, the qualifier. So I think we had 17 males and 18 females in the end, or maybe the other way around. And the roster of athletes, both male and female, was absolutely incredible. We'll get into a little bit more detail. The absence of Matt Fraser was a hot topic of discussion before the weekend. But the other big topic really was the full helping of incredible female elite level athletes. So great to see Cara Saunders back on the elite field. She'd done amazing down in Australia in one of the early sanctionals, but also had already qualified through the Open, I believe. Sarah Sigmund's daughter, Catherine David's daughter, Tia Claire Toomey, who is continuing to look unbeatable. Spoiler again, but just an amazing kind of roster of female athletes.
Yeah, I have opinions. I'll gently dish them out throughout. But I mean, you've already mentioned Cara, and she is incredible. Like, I mean, you said she'd qualified through the Open almost by accident. She was supposed to be competing at, I want to say it was Torian Pro that was happening during the Open, and they did one, like the Open workout. I think the first Open workout was a bit like Strength in Depth the year before, had been incorporated into the competition, and she did that and got such a good score that she dropped out of the competition to focus on doing the Open.
Yeah.
And qualified for the Open, having just had a baby not long before. And again, like one of the, I suppose we'll put it in here because one of the trade-offs of doing this competition in this format online from home is that also means your time zone. So Cara, who put up incredible performances, was doing all of those at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
You can see the gym, you can see the windows, it's pitch black outside. And I was watching her sort of behind the scenes vlog today, and she was saying like from day one, she got home and it was already kind of like 5:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And she knows that her baby's going to wake up in kind of half an hour. There's no point in going to sleep. She'll just wait till she wakes up to sort of feed her and do all this. And you're just like
nappies, having done an incredible first day.
I mean, my daughter was born roughly around the same time as Cara's daughter. So I feel like if I told my wife to go and compete right now, she'd kill me. And so it's like, you're not sleeping at night. You're not getting the rest you need. The baby is always needs you, demands everything from you.
Yeah.
To be able to not just compete, but compete at the highest level in the middle of the night. And some of the performances she put in were absolutely incredible. I mean, Tia, as you said, is almost untouchable. But considering the situation Cara was in, who knows next year? Maybe, kid will be 2. I mean,
I'm going to show my real amateur videography here, and I'm going to turn on a light because the problem with using natural light from a window is that it doesn't last. So bear with me just 30 seconds. There we go. Not much better,
I also have a window here with light, and I was going to do the same as you, and I was like, I better turn the light on because I imagined it wouldn't last.
Yeah. Well, you're further west than me, so I can tell you it's going to get dark soon. But you probably knew that already because I
had a feeling nighttime does that.
It's reasonably consistent day to day. Anyway, I think there's so many athletes that we can highlight. Talking a little bit more about, like, say, the mammoth effort Rogue have gone to facilitate this competition, essentially virtually, although live is amazing. So what they did with the athletes that they invited, my understanding is that each of those athletes was provided with a small container full of Rogue equipment, which in itself is amazing. Can you imagine that just turning up? It's kind of like Christmas.
I mean, if they've got some spare, and I'd be more than happy to accept one.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was wondering, and we can kind of get into them, is like, so I know at least Matt Fraser and Carrie Pearce both had to pull out through implications of an injury. Was that before or after they received the kit? What happened?
Probably after, wasn't it? It's like, oh, I was supposed to tell you last week. I completely forgot. Sorry.
Yeah. I sent it in the mail.
They got the equipment, and they even sent them kind of a floor plan of how to set up that equipment. And so you'll see there was kind of a box constantly on the floor, and that was, it's basically all the things that people complain about kind of during the Open, isn't it? Like, oh, well, their rower was over here and the pull-up bar was over there, and if I could have had that layout in my gym, then I'd have been quicker. And they eliminated all of that, and they just were like, look, you're all in this little square, that is it. And you compete there. And I do think going forward, that's interesting, because obviously live competition will start up again one day in the future, no doubt. But if we're going to have social distancing guidelines and restrictions and limitations on how close athletes can be to each other and the judges and so on and so forth, we're used to these lanes, aren't we? Like, and it's very easy to visualize where, who's in the lead because they're further down this lane. But the idea that, well, actually you could put them basically in a box and they can do the entire competition more or less within that box, that's reassuring, because that means there are options on the table down the line if different countries are going to have certain restrictions on what competitions are allowed to do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's an example within the sport that we enjoy of like where adversity you'd never heard of is put in front of you. You find a way through it, right? That's kind of like what the sport of CrossFit is, right? Is like, here's a challenge, navigate your way through it. And and I think a lot of these things will, hopefully we'll get back to the kind of, the open, the Coliseum floor or the football field kind of events in the sun. But equally, it shows that, so I think some of these things will be around for a while. Yeah, that's for sure.
Only time will tell. We'll see.
So,
but I mean, or even on a local affiliate level, it gives you an idea of if the government allows boxes to reopen, perhaps potentially the way they will have to be laid out, at least for a while. If you're not going to be able to have the rowers all down one end and the barbells all on another end, because that means people are going to be mixing and passing, and you've got to have these restrictions. Maybe it's going to be smaller classes, but you could set them up in these kind of boxes, and at least your gym is functioning. So I mean, there was a lot came out of this besides the competition. I think Rogue have sort of shone a little bit of a spotlight on a few areas, a few ideas, a few things people could do. But I mean, competition wise, if someone else could pull this off, I'd be quite amazed, because obviously, Rogue are a big player and they've got a lot of resources that they can use. I would struggle to see other competitions being able to put on a similar event, or at least pulling it off. That's probably the more impressive thing.
So and what they delivered was 2 full days of competition, 3 events on each day, and a real mixture of different events. We've got short, fast, light the fuse and go. We've got some real classic takes on classic workouts, but equally then we had like, kind of a lift off, and even things kind of like, they didn't call it death by power snatch, but it was that kind of increasing rep scheme, EMOM, really, really nice. And the whole thing was kind of narrated and commentated by, Sean Woodland, Chase Ingram, 2 real, kind of professors of the sport. And then they had a number of really kind of knowledgeable guests in there, Margot Alvarez, but also I think they had Carrie Pearce drop in to talk, and Coach Mike Bergner, his weightlifting expertise and knowledge was a real nice compliment to event 4, which we can get into, the kind of like the clean and jerk last athlete standing. So yeah, they went to town on not just enabling the events to happen, but the whole whole kind of spectacle.
Yeah, and there was always something going on, wasn't there? So even in the breaks between events, the breaks between heats, there was always something to keep you occupied. It wasn't just dead air, or looking at an empty competition floor. There was always an interview here, or an experience of strongman or something else. Because obviously, again, Rogue has got their fingers in so many pies that they can pull from. I would say that most of, if not all of the events were relatively short. Some were incredibly short. Event 6 was, for one person in particular, event 6 was incredibly short. We'll get to that. But yeah, there wasn't any really long event. And I think that's where that limitation of being in a box, in a box, basically being in a square, you couldn't have them doing a kind of marathon type event just standing in a box, could you? That would it wouldn't be entertaining, and I think probably the feed would struggle to handle that, and I think people would get bored. So I think they did a good job considering, and some of the events obviously went on longer because of the caliber of athlete. Sam Briggs comes to mind. So I think that did, but yeah, looking at, I think time caps were generally, I think maybe 20 minutes was the longest time cap, I think, looking at the events here.
Yeah, that would be for the event 5 chipper, right?
Yeah.
So, but event 1 was less than 10 minutes. I think they were getting in around 7, and that was for, as I mentioned, a take on Fran, really. Introducing thrusters. So it was a 21:15.9 couplet of thrusters at increasing weight each round. But obviously not going to start at the weight that most of us mere mortals would use. They started around 60 kilos, might be about 62 kilos for men and 40 for the women. And then using burpee pull-ups instead of pull-ups, which I don't know if you've ever done burpee pull-ups, but they just ruin any sort of getting through this quickly.
Yeah, I saw a lot of comments on YouTube of people sort of criticizing a little bit the standard of the pull-up, and I kind of felt like, I think you're missing the point. It's not it's not that final range of motion, a range of movement at the end that is. It's the whole dropping down into a burpee, having to jump. From 90% of them having to jump up to the bar, pulling themselves up. It just, as you said, there's no way to get through that quickly. That is slowing you down considerably. And then having to load the bar themselves was interesting, because that was probably the only element of strategy that was sort of employed. I suppose also where you decide to break, if you're going to break on the thrusters or not. But I noticed some loading the bar before doing the burpee pull-ups, some loading the bar after. I think Sarah Sigmund's daughter had an interesting strategy of loading one side of the barbell when she finished the thrusters, going and doing the burpee pull-ups, and then loading the other side. So she kind of got 2 mini breaks. So it was quite interesting to see the different approach that athletes took to something as simple as loading a barbell, which normally in competition you don't see that often, because usually they would have just had multiple barbells at their disposal, wouldn't they?
I was disappointed to see no one using my tactic, which is to load the barbell incorrectly to get more rest, but I guess that's why I don't compete at that level.
Yeah, I would have probably loaded one side and then forgot to load the other side.
So I mean, on that burpee pull-up, I think you could see people like, oh, that's not a pull-up because where's the full range of movement? But it was more of a burpee, like to chin over bar, right? Any which way. And there were, especially for the female athletes, there were some differences in style. You'd got Tia using an underhand grip, most using an overhand grip. But I know one of the athletes, unfortunately, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, was jumping up into a complete dead hang and then strict pull up. And that must have been like really, really challenging. I don't know whether it was because the bar was higher, because I know we talked about how they had like a set format, and some of them had crash mats to step onto. So, I'm not sure on the details of that kind of movement standard.
Yeah, I think that might have been Fisa Goffi, but I can't quite remember as well, but yeah, she was really like, it was a proper kind of kip almost in each time, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, they kind of still, made not light work of it. That does them a disservice. But they were through it, in good steady work. So, like, it definitely took the effect. The burpee pull-ups were definitely the thing that was slowing them all down. Even with the weight increasing to 65 at the end became, not a light thruster. 65 for women, 90 kilos for men. Still just really impressive to see. I think Pat Vellner did that in a couple of sets, I think. But I think Jacob Heppner might have gone unbroken on that.
So Jacob went. Sorry, I'm on the women. I think he did go unbroken, but he didn't. He finished third, which was impressive. 7:20 his time. Vellner got 7:10. Just going back to the women for 1 second. Heat 1 was Cara took that. Which, as I said, was like incredible because that was the first event, the first time seeing her competing at this level, and she won that heat. But this is again where the not being being live, but not in a live kind of format that we used to. Sarah Sigmundsdottir was chasing her down she was about 2 reps behind.
Yeah,
and they don't know that. Neither of them know. They don't know they need to hang on a rep more just because someone is that close to them. And likewise, Sarah doesn't know that Cara is only that little ahead of her. So that makes it super interesting for us to watch.
Yeah.
But they have no idea. But Cara put in a fantastic performance. But I think in the end she was third overall in that, because I think Tia obviously won that event for the women. I think Amanda Barnhart maybe came second. I might be wrong on that.
With a relatively heavy barbell, I can't remember, but it feels.
I think it was Jamie.
Okay.
Jaim Simmons, formerly Green, right? But on the men's side, the winner of event 1 was Colton Mertens.
Yeah.
We will mention him again. This guy, I am a huge fan. Had never heard of him before this.
I hadn't either. I definitely had a similar situation.
But fantastic. And to be honest, if I have one criticism to level against the production of this event, he was not interviewed. Yeah. As far as I know, I rewatched a few things today. He was not interviewed. He wasn't interviewed after winning that event. Pat was, who came second, which I felt was a little bit of a disservice to Colton, because it's event 1. So that meant that the next event, he didn't just win that event. He is currently winning the competition.
He had the white jersey, if there was such a thing.
If there was such a thing, yeah. Can you imagine that? They'd sent each one a white jersey to their home as well. Like, you can put that on if you're winning. So I mean, we'll get later to another super impressive performance that he put out. But again, we didn't hear anything from him. In fact, ironically, the second time he also won an event, they interviewed Pat again. So
yeah, you wonder whether, again, because of the complexity of running such an event with multiple streams coming in from around the world, whether there were some things that were outside of their immediate capability. Not that did they have some kind of pre-lined up? Was it going to be Vellner, irrespective of where he came in the event, and he just so happened to come second? You don't know, but I know that they all had like a judge and an ops manager on site, and a couple of cameras. So it was there was a lot of foresight and a lot of forethought put by Rogue, and there's always things that in hindsight could have been better.
But this guy Colton, he's short, which I'm a short guy, so I appreciate that. But it meant that for like the thrusters and things like that, convenient. He's short. The distance he had to jump for his pull-up bar was almost comical. Like, you're watching him do it. It was ridiculous. But I mean, he smashed that workout. 7:01. He was 9 seconds faster than Vellner, and 20 seconds faster than Heppner. So that's in a 7-minute event. That's a lot.
And he was a qualifier rather than an invitee. So really hope to see more of him. Well, we see more of him later on in the events. But equally, future events next season. Let's. I'm sure we'll be seeing him again.
I hope so. As I
So
said, big fan.
talking, you mentioned there around how like Sarah and Cara were only a couple of reps apart, and they had no idea about that. You got some insights in some of the interviews that, like, I saw on social media something around kind of Jason Hepner and like his wife holding up a sign being like, "You're in the lead," but it's a very different experience for them, to not have the fellow athlete in the lane next to them, knowing, okay, you can, Matt Fraser's a great example of that, where he almost works hard enough to stay in the lead, and there isn't that ability to do that. And it does then create amazing work effort. So if you're happy to move on to event 2, where amazing work effort from all athletes, but one in particular.
That's
from England, none other than Sam Briggs. Just incredible to watch that.
Yeah, especially because it was an endurance event ultimately, but it was a barbell event. And generally speaking, there is this sort of idea that if it's Briggs and it's a barbell, it's, if it's a run, if it's a row, if it's a typical endurance race, Briggs is your go-to, right? Barbell, you sort of start to dismiss her already. But this wasn't a super heavy barbell. No. And this was the difference, right?
Yeah.
So they had 4 minutes, a 4-minute time cap, right, to do 50 power snatches. And that was their tiebreak time. So, I mean, that's funny, isn't it? Because there, again, it comes into play then, what are you planning to do after that? How important is your tiebreak time to you? Because you can go a bit slower because you're confident that you're going to go further down the line on the second part, or you can put it all out there to get a great tiebreak time because you know that you're probably going to drop off quite early with other people, and that maybe that tiebreak time is going to come into play. Yeah. So there's a lot to think about, and you have no idea what the person on your left or on your right is doing. So
for anyone who's not aware of event 2, as you mentioned, it's 50 power snatch for time is almost like the tiebreaker cash-in. That was at 42 kilos for men and 30 kilos or 29 kilos for women equivalent. And make sure you go and watch it because it's amazing to watch it. But they had that kind of 50 power snatch for time, which would be, for me, would be kind of like daunting in itself. They had the gamesmanship to understand how to approach that. And then they were moving on to part B, which was on the 5th minute. They were starting with 11 power snatches in the first minute. On the second minute, 12. On the third minute, 13. They didn't call it death by, but I always see that as a death by something workout. But it's normally a body weight workout, like burpees or air squats or press-ups. So to do it with a barbell, something I'd never really thought of before.
Yeah, even my 6-year-old son was able to identify that as, he said, "Oh, that's like the death by burpees." I was like, "Oh, well done." I've trained him well.
Yeah,
trained him well. He'll always remember that workout because he beat me at it. So, but I mean, so we've mentioned Sam Briggs is the name on this event, and the reason that her name comes up is because Sarah came second. So in total, she did, I think it's including that first 50, 175 reps. So that is a huge number of power. I mean, that's a huge number with a PVC pipe, isn't it? That's like,
yeah.
Let alone a loaded barbell. Sam did 211 reps. Like,
it's one of those things, and they did discuss this in that the thing with with this kind of rep scheme, this format, is that you very quickly are adding more reps when you get into a new round. But there's also that fear that you're like, I kind of want to get as many reps as I can, but I'm really worried I'm going to finish them in the time and have to go again. And those last, I think, 11 or whatever it was in that last kind of minute, the pace wasn't the same, and that's not a criticism, but it was just that kind of like she had put everything into that, into getting to the end of that. I'm not even what it was, which round it was by then, but and then just accumulating more, again, with no knowledge of whether, other athletes were still in. But to see Sam Briggs with the engine that she has on the floor at the end, completely kind of out of breath, just shows the effort that it went to.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to contrast that with the men, now, I get this is always kind of one of the things with male and female competition in CrossFit is that the women have gotten so much stronger over the years that at times it seems the weight for the men when it's even if it's light, it's kind of heavier almost than the weight for the women. Like comparatively, it seems that a lot of the women, especially at this level, can handle that weight a lot more efficiently than the men can usually handle the prescribed weight. And that's a sort of a trend you see across the games and in different competitions. And I think that's just where the women have, shone at being, so good at adapting to using the barbell. But to contrast that, we just said Sam got 211 reps. Pat won for the men. Pat Vellner, I mean, he's an impressive guy. 131 reps.
Yeah.
Like that is dramatically less. And Hepner came second, 114. So Sam has done almost 100 more reps.
Do you think some of that was like down to there's different strategies? I mean, it's a very different workout to anything I've seen at an elite level before. And the other squad that kind of jumped out at me was like Tia getting 115 reps and coming 13th, at least in part B, but she won part A, so she got the fastest 50 reps for time. So there was just this kind of like say the strategy of like, where do you put your chips on what part of the roulette board, and does it pay off?
Yeah, see, I think in this case, when we compare this to the other event that was a bit similar with the tie break time being kind of done first, in this particular event, I don't think the tie break time was going to matter too much because I'm just looking through the results now. Only 3 couples tied for reps.
Yeah.
So there were 3 pairs that tied for reps because, as you said, like Sam Briggs, she finished her minute, she started again, and she got through kind of those 11 reps, and then ended. And I think with this format, it's so easy to just have 1 rep more than the other person.
Yeah.
If you're working towards it and you've got 3 reps remaining and they've got 4 remaining, and then you get timed out, that tiebreak doesn't matter, right? It only matters in that instance that you got exactly the same number of reps, which obviously can happen. It did happen, but I don't think I would have put. I think you need to get it done fast enough that you have enough time to rest before going into the death by format. But if you go too fast and then you just empty out the tank, you're potentially not going to have enough rest to get back to you'll be fine the first couple of minutes. I mean, they will be with their their capacity, but as we saw, like Tia is a super accomplished weightlifter. That barbell is not a challenge for her, and her capacity is also I don't want to say unrivaled, but incredible, right? Yeah, as you said, that was potentially her worst finish of the competition, I think
so. It was the only one that kind of jumped out to me when I was kind of having a look through it. I think she had 3 event wins at least. So,
yes.
I know the other thing that I was scratching my head around when I was watching it was that Sean and Chase, as the commentators, were talking about how it was a 2-part event with 2 scored elements. So I wonder whether there was a little bit of confusion in that, like, getting the fastest part to time A would get you some points. But then if I look at the leaderboard, I don't think that was the case in the end. So perhaps, and that whether that was just a confusion on my part or on the kind of commentary part, or perhaps even some of the athletes were thinking, let's just try and get some points on the board for the first bit.
So, yeah, I think there was some issues of communication a couple of times that came through. And I get, and I mean, that's being super nitpicky. Like, oh yeah, there was a bit of trouble communicating. Yeah, I mean, people were all over the world, so it's understandable that you've got a lot going on and maybe certain things don't get communicated in exactly the right way. But yeah, I think you're right. As I'm not aware of that having affected the final score at all. I think it was it was definitely a tiebreaker because, for example, Kristen Holter and Fisa Goffi both got 153 reps.
Yeah.
But Kristen finished about 10 seconds faster on part A, and therefore she had the position above. So it was definitely just employed as a tiebreaker.
Yeah. So those first two events were kind of definitely a nice start to day one, and then they finished with a bit more, not quite a chipper, but a bit more of like a workhorse event with heavy double unders, not just a few 240. And it was really apparent watching all the athletes that that was a heavy handled rope as well as a heavy cabled rope, that it was taking its effect on the athletes just to get through those 240 reps. That I'm sure all of them are capable of doing 240 double unders unbroken, but they were breaking those down significantly, and then had to go into 2 rounds of 60 toes to bar and 24 calories on the Rogue Echo bike. So they were. I was looking at that and going, grippy in shoulders after all the snatch. Enjoy that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole 2 days were pretty grip intensive, and I think somebody had put up a behind the scenes video. Give me a second. I think she's changed her name. That's why I'm trying to struggle to find her. Christy O'Connell.
Yeah. Aramo. Yeah.
Yeah. So she put up a behind the scenes, and she's like bags of ice on her forearms because she's like, oh, it was so grip intensive and forearms. But that heavy rope, I mean, that is where. So a couple of take-home points from we haven't said what happened after the rope. So the 240 was the buy-in, and then it was how many calories? No, so it was 60 toes to bar.
Yeah, and then 24 calories, I think.
On the
I don't know whether was it different for male and female. I can't remember off the top of my head.
You're making me do my research again. It was 30 calories for the men, 24 calories for the women. Yeah. So, and it was 2 rounds. So it was basically 60 toes to bar, 24 calories, 60 toes to bar, 24 calories, and that was it. So the 240 double unders was just the buy-in.
Yeah.
But like that's where my boy Colton dropped off. I went back and rewatched it because obviously having finished the whole event, like the whole 2 days, I kind of wondered what happened to him because I was like, he didn't finish that high overall. So he obviously had a bad event, and I went back and looking at the leaderboard, I saw that he actually hit the time cap on this event. Quite a number of the men hit the time cap. Sean Sweeney was one. I think Lucas Holberg as well, and maybe even Adrian Muwala. I mean, it was a pretty extensive list, to be honest with you. Of Lucas came last. Then Sean Sweeney, Colton. Why do I doubt myself? I was completely correct with all those names that I put out there. But yeah, I went back to rewatch it, and so I was like, because I was thinking, I wonder what he struggled with. It was those double unders. He was breaking them up all the time, kind of. But as you said, it was a heavy rope with heavy handles, and I think it crushed a lot of them more than they anticipated.
Well, I mean, I think heavy double unders, or at least a heavy rope, came in. So like the cable being heavier came in a number of years ago at the games, I think. But it is an example of these kind of weird and wonderful things that keep making it into at least the top 2 tiers of kind of CrossFit events. And by top 2, I mean like ex-regionals and kind of the games, that they bring these things in and they can completely just like broadside an athlete if it's not something that they focused on. And because so much of it's a skill really, and something like double unders is a lot about kind of like muscle memory. So to then bring that in, it's kind of like, if you've not done it before, then you spend the first 5 minutes learning how.
Yeah, in fact, like you could see their arms were kind of swaying backwards and forwards to bring that rope underneath them. Whereas generally the trick with double unders is that you don't move your eyes. It's that you just lock yourself into that position and you stay there. And that is the trick. And when you start failing double unders, if you video yourself, you'll see that it's usually as soon as you start moving your arms. That's generally 90% of people's downfall. And here you could see people swinging their arms to bring that rope back and forth. But then you get through that nightmare of 240 heavy double unders, and you have to do 60 toes to bar, which is what I would consider a huge number of toes to bar to do 120 in total with a little break on the bike. When would you ever think of the bike being a break? That sounds absolutely insane.
Let's describe it as it's 240 heavy double unders and 2 sets of 60 toes to bar with some rest in between.
Which is absolutely insane. I think only one woman didn't finish the event. They all got through, but as I said, quite a number of the men. But Lucas Holberg, he didn't even finish the final set of toes to bar. He was doing them in singles at the end. So I don't know what happened, but everyone else was on the bike at least, and where they got time capped. But he was doing them in singles. The person that absolutely demolished that event was Hayley Adams.
Yeah.
So
finishing first in the female.
I mean, she's 19. That's not fair, right? But she was interviewed afterwards about this, and her comment was just, I mean, what else would you expect? So when she said when she saw it, she's like, yeah, in Cookville, normally we never do less than 150 toes to bar. So when I saw it was only 120, I was quite happy.
It shows that the performance is made in the training and the practice, right? And it's she's kind of new to the kind of, let's call it the open division, the kind of 18 plus, and she's performed really well at the games last year and a number of really strong sanctional performances as well. But really impressive to see her kind of hit the top of one of the event kind of leaderboards as well there as well. So she's clearly training in Cookville is paying dividends. Yeah,
I mean, you train with Rich Froning, something good is bound to happen, right? I mean, that's only going to go one of two ways. Either you never train CrossFit again, or you get incredibly good at CrossFit. I think that's the two options you have when you train with Rich. So she's clearly taken, option A of getting really good at CrossFit.
I think one of the things that I'm trying to decide when to bring this in, because I think it's relevant to all the events and relevant to the way that the global pandemic we find ourselves in and how it then impacts people in different ways. But is like you were mentioning there about Lucas Holberg was having to do it in singles. I know Brooke Wells very quickly dropped into doing sets of 5. I think Sarah Sigmundsdottir as well. And, first of all, having not done the event, I'm not sure I would have even made it through the heavy double unders, never mind being able to do toes to bar. But is that whilst these are elite level athletes, everyone around the world has been impacted. Their lifestyle has been impacted by kind of like lockdowns in various shapes and forms around the world. And I think actually the phrase, and I think Al Harwood, I heard it from Al Harwood, but I think he was quoting someone else. And it was that we're all in the same storm, but we're all in different boats. And so definitely acknowledging that these are all elite level athletes, but their training's going to have been impacted in different ways. They might have had different access to a rig. They might have had a strict pull-up bar, but not the ability to do toes to bar. But equally, it could just be that this, was an awesomely programmed event that just picked holes in people's kind of weaknesses and amplified other people's strengths that were going to be there regardless.
Yeah, I think there was a little segment they did asking the athletes, like, what piece of equipment were they missing in their home gym? And obviously the responses did reveal a lot about, I would say it revealed a lot about them as individuals anyway. And it sort of doesn't surprise you, the different answers people had. So like Sarah has everything in her home gym. Of course she does. Like, that doesn't surprise you, does it? Sarah Sigmundsdottir, of course she's going to have every piece of equipment. On the other hand, Pat Vellner was like, I pretty much don't have a home gym. So everything is missing from my home gym. And again, he's got that kind of almost laid back attitude, but he's someone who goes in and does the work. You see him look at CrossFit as quite a professional thing, don't you? As it's sort of, I'll go to the gym, do my work, and then I'll go home and do my proper work, my career. So I think you're right in that will have obviously impacted quite a degree how people train, even the motivation to train. I think we all probably felt that waning. So I imagine having a competition to train for was probably a blessing for most of them, because it would have given them at least that emphasis to, I should train because I'm going to be on the world stage. People are going to see me. Whereas I can imagine a lot would just, feel like there's more important things to do at the moment than lift some heavy weights.
Yeah, and with $50,000 at the top of the for the winner as well, that's something to work for, right?
Well, that is going to motivate you, admittedly.
Yeah. But you mentioned and actually I haven't seen the piece on like what's missing or what they've got in their home gym, but I had seen some previous kind of interviews with Pat Vellner, and I must say I've always liked Pat Vellner, but I think he might be my new favorite elite level CrossFitter for a number of reasons, other than the fact that he just seems such a genuine kind of like, kind of approachable guy. And most like elite level athletes appear that way, is that he's moved to Nanaimo on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada. And I've been to Nanaimo a couple of times and have dropped in repeatedly at CrossFit Nanaimo. So I remember originally seeing that he'd moved there and being like, why has he moved there? And I think aligning with that, my view of him being just kind of like, he's, to say he's an average guy he's not average, but he's moved there. I think his partner, his fiance, has a job there, right? So they've moved there. But CrossFit Nanaimo is an amazing small community box in this town on Vancouver Island. And then to see him competing there, I was like, I've been there. So I felt a lot of kind of like connection with him, and having trained in that box, and I was like, I wonder if he's seen the box cat called Wicket, and things like that. And so I felt like he but I also knew that he's in a small condo in Nanaimo. Again, I could resonate with that, and because I could imagine, and I know what Nanaimo's like. It's a very small, sleepy town, really. And yeah, he was like, I don't have a barbell. I just have some dumbbells and stuff like that. But I remember him equally saying, like, I don't want to ask the box to open especially for me, because that's not fair on everyone else. Now they made the box available to him for the Rogue Invitational, which is exceptional circumstances. But he just seemed like have a really genuine approach and was being impacted by the pandemic, like many people are.
Yeah, and I mean, I imagine he's probably been impacted quite heavily, considering also his job, because obviously as a chiropractor, it's a very hands-on physical job. So when there are social distancing guidelines and things like that, it's probably something that it's impacted him. So he's probably got a lot on his mind at the moment, more than just whether or not he can pick up a barbell. But as you did mention, there's quite a substantial payout, so I suppose that will light a fire.
I clearly have quite a man crush on him as well.
I'm a big Vellner fan. I mean, is it because I feel like maybe he's the only one that can take down Fraser? Potentially, that could be it. I mean, he's put in a pretty dominant performance so far over the last 3 events we've mentioned. I mean, he's been at the top. He hasn't won all of these events, but he's always been, first, top, second, third. He's been in the and that's the consistency he's going to need to take down Fraser in the future, is that you can't have a bad event with Matt.
And that was the thing. So actually for event 3 on the male side, Vellner and Hepner were first and second, and they both finished in the top 3 for all 3 events on day 1. And I'm sure both finished day 1 feeling pretty happy with themselves.
I mean, I wouldn't you?
Yeah, speaking from experience, when I finished at the top of a leaderboard, I've never been at the top of a leaderboard, unfortunately.
I mean, I think the names that were at the top weren't a surprise. I'd put it that way. The names that were lower in the table, for some, I think may have been a surprise. I think there were a few people, like Catherine springs to mind. Catherine is one who I think it's just one of those names where people are like, oh, she's going to smash it. She'll do really well. She'll do really well. I haven't seen that backed up in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she's very good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't put her on the same level as a certain other couple of athletes that you're like, they are there. I think she was there. I think there was a time that she was at that level. But I don't know what it is. And I think it's like the reverse Sarah. Because I often felt that when Sarah was going into competitions, people were really, all the media behind the scenes was sort of like, oh, this is Sarah's year. We're going to see Sarah do really well. And she didn't. There was always this hype and she didn't perform, which very recently has changed. That now when she goes in, she is performing and she is living up to the hype. Yeah. And I feel like with Catherine, it's flipped. That she was there. She was always kind of in those top couple of people and putting in, throwing into the mix and being someone that people were worried about.
Yeah.
I didn't see that during this period, during this competition, really. I think she's dropped off a little bit. And I know you've just mentioned all the problems of the world at the moment that can be affecting people. But I mean, I feel like that's kind of been the last couple of competitions as well. I might be wrong.
Yeah, no.
Probably wrong.
It's kind of like you mentioned it, like nitpicking. It's kind of trying to work out. Well, you're 23.5 karat gold instead of 24 karat gold, and it's still incredible performances. And I think one of the things that definitely when I like Catherine as an athlete brings this amazing kind of mindset as well that I think is the epitome that a lot of people try to channel into their training, but also into their like broader lives. I've definitely got a lot personally from like Ben Bergeron's Chasing Excellence book, which surrounds the kind of mindset, well, the training, but also the kind of mindset conditioning that he kind of instills into a lot of his elite level athletes. And I think she does an amazing job of kind of portraying that in kind of both her competitive life, but kind of her public life on social media, right? So, and I've not seen anything specific reflecting on that yet, so I've not seen any interviews with Catherine around, how the Invitational went, but I expect her to come out being how she just loved to do it. I wouldn't expect her to come out with any kind of regrets or things like that, because that's not the kind of approach she typically takes.
No, and I mean, as we mentioned at the outset, like these are, the top of like the top of the top. This is the real cream of the CrossFit kind of competitive field, without Matt Fraser this year. But yeah, again, I know she's better than 99% of CrossFitters. That's not calling into question. It's just that final push where I think it's that kind of thing as well. You saw with Tia that she didn't have it, especially when she came second twice at the games. She just seemed to be lacking that final little drive. And then when she got it, now like it was noticeable, right? She just went in and crushed everyone. Last year at the games, particularly, that was sort of of note. A few other names though that I thought were interesting looking at after day one. Ben Smith. I mean, but Ben Smith is it's just a joy to watch him. Like he was mid-table kind of the whole way through. I love Ben, but I don't expect we're going to see him ever on a podium again, at least not at this level of competition. But he's just, everything he does is like, it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Well, he's been doing 12 years or something like that. So it's just just grown up doing it. The mechanics, the kind of mindset, the kind of approach is just, like I say, it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, and we didn't mention the programming itself, that you had like Josh Bridges programming events, Speeder, like they were, you also had a kind of a dream team behind the scenes as well, coming up with these events.
The guys at Rogue have got a lot of useful people on speed dial.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's when you have like Josh Bridges saying about that first event, like it's going to be fun or it's going to be enjoyable or something like that. You're like, we have very different understandings of that word, Josh.
Yeah. So if we like fast forward then, so we've had 3 events in day 1, move on to day 2, and we're treated to a liftoff for, I think is a good description. You know, it's kind of that would typically be, you know, a Friday Night Lights or, you know, Saturday in the Coliseum. And it was amazing for them to kind of put a show like that on. Obviously there, through all of this, and we haven't mentioned it yet, there's no music, there's no crowd. Which made it different, that's for sure. But watching the liftoff, and we can go into a bit more of detail, I found it more intense because of that. Like the adrenaline watching it felt more raw because it wasn't being funneled by the music and the lights. It was pure like you were watching them in the box because that's where they were.
Yeah, I don't know if it was I'm not sure if it was my favorite event. I really liked this event. It may have been my favorite. It was definitely my favorite event at the games when you got to see the liftoff there, and it was different but the same, if you know what I mean. Like there, you were having it kind of one after another, which was nice to see. So everyone got their moment in the spotlight. But because of this format and them, as you said, being on their own in the gym, it felt the same, even though, because, you know, they'd all make the lift and then you kind of go back and you would see 1 or 2 spotlighted. But so again, it had that tie break. So it was 7 clean and jerks for time to set up
Let's not forget that bit. The 7 clean and jerks with a minute time cap at 116 kilos for men and 75 kilos for women. And so, you know, that as a little intro. So.
Well, that warms you up, gets you nice and loose.
Yeah, it's the way I warm up at.
Yeah. Then you have 5 minutes rest, and then it was a clean and jerk, which I think I really appreciated that, because as fun as the clean was watching that event at the games, adding the jerk just gave that level of peril, didn't it? Because you know, when it was just the clean, as soon as you've made the clean, job done, right? But you'd see a couple of times that someone would miss the clean, or miss the jerk. They got the clean, they missed the jerk, then they get the clean again. You know, now you've only got 10 seconds left. What are you going to do? Are they going to make, you know, you're halfway there. What was the problem with the jerk? Because I feel like missing a clean and missing a jerk are 2 quite different things. With the jerk, it's a lot more positional, isn't it? The barbell's slightly too far forward, slightly too far back. You're going to miss it. You can receive the bar. There's more room for error in the clean, right?
Great terminology there. Coach Berger would be proud.
I've been paying close attention.
And I think that was a really good choice of bringing in like an expert kind of third commentator, because, you know, his experience in the kind of weightlifting world is kind of, you know, just world renowned. And he, like many weightlifting coaches, doesn't mix his words, or, you know, he just went in there and was like, that's good, that's terrible, Jacob Heppner can't lift.
Yeah, I did a podcast recently with Eileen Wu from Wu Lift. So she trained under. Well, no, she didn't. He's the one who got her on to weightlifting, but because of geographic location, she trained under somebody else.
Right.
But she has worked with him a number of times, and she's done some great videos breaking down the clean event at the games.
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting. These are the top level CrossFit athletes, but they make some mistakes with Olympic lifting that is very much, it seems, a consequence of CrossFit because they are trying to get under the bar as quick as they can. And, you know, it's all about how fast you can do things at times. So it is interesting. And as you said, he doesn't mix his words. He comes out and says what he thinks, but he's also super complimentary of those that are doing well, which is really nice. And he sees the potential in some, and he's like someone like Amanda Barnhart, who just puts up insane numbers, but is almost strict through the whole thing. And it's like, imagine if she dialed in her technique, what she'd be able to do. No more is that evident than in who I feel is the complete polar opposite of the way I lift, and that is Chandler Smith. because Chandler Smith won that event. He lifted an insane amount of weight, and it was all like brute force. He was just muscling it. So I'm the opposite. I'm small and light and not so strong. So technique is everything. And that's like why I enjoyed the breakdown of the clean with Eileen, because I'm someone that really thinks about the technique, because I need that edge to help me lift comparable to bigger, stronger people in the gym. He is the opposite. He doesn't need any technique. He can just pick that barbell up off the floor and get it overhead. And it is scary to see him do that. And you wonder if he could, dial in that technique.
Yeah.
What would he be able to do?
I think he pressed out 160, 165, and you're like, just amazing grit to kind of like commit to that, and you're like, but amazing, just to kind of like receiving the bar in a little bit more of a, a muscle clean or power to muscle clean, and compared to say, somewhere like say when technique is everything, because that's what really will enable those kind of 200 kilo plus lifts for your elite level weightlifters. I really enjoyed, always enjoyed watching weightlifting. I do sometimes get a little bit anxious when you think, they're going to, is something going to go wrong? But Laura Horvath's technique is just amazing. Especially her jerk, that kind of punch lockout in the jerk looked bomb-proof, well above the weight she kind of got to, and it was her clean that kind of failed her. And Coach Bergner, in his expertise, knew that was going to be the case. She was sticky through the middle of the clean, and that's where the kind of comp ended for her in a solid second place or third place, I think. I can't remember where Amanda Barnard and her whereabouts they came, second and third, I think.
I think she came second. Laura came second.
Yeah.
She managed to get 10 pounds more than Barnhart. Cara Saunders was fourth. She was putting up an incredible fight. She is built for that, though. If you look at Cara, and I think Coach said that as well, didn't he? He was like, she is the exact build you want for a weightlifter. Talking of being nervous about people, injuring themselves or making a mistake or something, I was so concerned about Tia on that final lift, because she'd already won. She didn't need to do the final lift, and nobody was telling her. And there's the part of you that's like, because there was doubt as to whether or not she knew. And we've seen it in competition before. We've seen Sarah try and hit that snatch at competition, even though it was over, but it was like, this would have been a PB, and the crowd were there and I was feeling it. So you never know, but you think you've still got more events to come. You don't want to, and this is a super heavy clean and jerk. Like, it's not just a warm up clean and jerk. This is, you don't need to do this. You've won already. But when you don't know what the other people are doing, and you know that you've got your Horvath and your Barnhart and those ones there, you're not leaving anything to chance, are you? So, and I just thought, can you imagine if she injures herself now?
It's how those ironical stories are written, isn't it?
But she was fine, everybody, and she hit her lift, and she posed for the camera, and all was right in the world.
And again, it's definitely it's a longer event because of the nature of it, but it's worth watching. And going back again, just like the commentary from Coach Bergner is really educational as well. Some of the things he brings in are like, so the reason your back leg should be bent in the receiving position of the jerk is important for kind of giving that cushioning effect. And he exemplified it with examples where that wasn't being done. So no, I think it's a really good one to watch. And some other, just from me, a couple of mentions. I think special mentions is whilst Chandler Smith won the event with 165 kilos, the same weight was lifted by Lucas Holberg. So just incredible, to see a couple of athletes lifting that type of weight, clean and jerk, not just clean. And I made that kind of, trash talking Jacob Heppner there, because that's what other people were doing. He came 17th, which was second to last. And I think the person that came 18th didn't actually lift in that event. He still lifted 145 kilos clean and jerk. after everything that happened on event 1, where I know a number of athletes were like, I'm pretty sore today, and rightly so. So, you know, to say, oh, he's not a weightlifter, he's lifting 145 kilos. He's a weightlifter in my books.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, we talked on that other event, the snatch event, about how the tiebreaker didn't really come into play. It wasn't that important. This was the opposite of that, because I think you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 went out. So, you know, Jacob hit, I've got it here in pounds, 320.
Yeah.
And then the next 6 up went out at 330. So, like,
Yeah.
you know, that it wasn't that then everybody else went on to lift huge amounts of weight more than he did. It was literally the next, you know, he failed that lift that they hit. Yeah. They all then failed the next one. You mentioned, you know, Lucas. Yeah, that was almost his redeeming event. That was, you know, getting second there. BKG is someone else who, again, he's just super consistent. He's hanging around at the top the whole time. I'm a big BKG fan, so I like him. Sax and Panchek, the Pancheks can lift. The whole family.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They are lifters. So
and Sax was up there in the top 10 of the games, but equally in that clean event at the games last year, he was up there lifting the heavy numbers as well.
Yeah, he did very well. The only people that were doing better than him was his brother. So that's it's a family thing. But Ben Smith as well. He came, I think, 5th. So, you know, I mean, I said I don't expect to see him on the podium, and that doesn't change what I said. I agree still with that. But, you know, he's still, for a human, very impressive. Like, I don't expect to see you on the podium, but that does not take away anything from what you can do.
Yeah,
it's just that there are a few more people a little bit more insane than you will lift even more.
So another kind of really dominant performance from Tia on the women's side, but, you know, just showing that, you know, they're so strong on both sides, you know, and and I think that's like one of the beautiful things of kind of like the sport of CrossFit is that breadth. You see, you know, you see a super fast workout, you see some kind of grunt work, kind of chipper, which we can go on to in a second, but equally then these single 1RM lifts as well. So they've got such a breadth of skills and strengths in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, and one person I was looking out for, and it was interesting because then Bergner mentioned it as well, was Haley Adams, because obviously she had a very poor showing at the games on the 1 rep max. She didn't even make the first barbell, which admittedly was heavier than the first barbell at this weight. But I was intrigued now to see, because that really highlighted one of her biggest weaknesses. And I think age comes into effect there a lot, because at you know, 18, 19 years of age, you've only had so much time to build to that weight, right? Whereas somebody who's got 5 years on you have had 5 more years of very marginal increases in strength that has allowed them to get that heavier weight. But she did really well. I mean, she didn't finish particularly high, but she hit 215, so she outlifted Catherine, for example. And considering what she'd done previously, you could see a vast improvement. Considering her age, that is only going to get better, and she is still someone that, you know, that name is going to stick around for a long time.
It's not the first time we've mentioned her either. So I think she's going to be around for a while, that's for sure. So moving on then to the penultimate event 5. This is the longest event, the chipper. Kind of a down and back up again. A little bit different. And I guess part of the things here is they wanted to introduce a chipper, but the amount of kit they could really send to the athletes was limited. So I thought they made some really good use of D-balls here. So, you know, chipper is often going to have some calorie accumulation. So they started with 40 calorie row on the concept 2. And then they had the kind of D-ball kind of squat clean at 45 kilos for men, I think 100 pounds, and what would have been about 32 kilos for women, 70 pounds. But like to the shoulder and squat clean. So kind of a nice one, really. And I wonder whether a number of them, again, a bit of an unusual movement, potentially. We do D-ball to shoulder, D-ball over shoulder, but to do a squat clean, offset, offset loading, really taxing the core on the back of everything they've done, especially all the toaster bar and things yesterday. I think it was probably deceptively difficult. I don't know who was responsible for programming this one.
Yeah, and I think it showed, you saying probably people not as used to using that. I think Annie made an interesting observation because she was sort of guest commentator on that event. So I think Catherine, I think Laura did the same. They held on to the ball, so they were doing touch and go reps. Whereas when you drop the ball, it doesn't bounce.
Yeah,
and so it's kind of unnecessary to do that. The amount of time you're gaining is very marginal for the amount of extra load on your back of touch and going when you could just drop the ball.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, where you see those who are used to doing this. They know that, right? They've trained with this implement a lot. They know kind of the feel of it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're someone that's usually using a barbell, a barbell bounces, right? So you're going to hold on to it. It's going to save you a lot of time. I'll be honest, I'll ask you, when you saw this chipper, and I don't want to lead you on this, but thinking on the women's event, when you saw this chipper, what was your first thought about what athletes were going to struggle with, or maybe particularly an athlete? Did anybody jump out to you in particular?
It's like, just, you're going to open that door a little bit further for me? So whether I'm actually going to go there, it's like you obviously look at the strict handstand push-ups, and the scrutiny of a camera here, where the definitely kind of was. It brings Brooke Wells into mind. Then she's done they brought in handstand push-ups again, I know, in the open, but it's definitely that thing. I think not just to kind of point fingers at one athlete, but strict handstand push-ups, 40 of them are going to kind of take an effect. Yeah, everything else has been pretty leg heavy, so their arms not going to be fresh, but they're not as fatigued from some of the other things they've done. But that's definitely a thing that jumped to me. Is that what you were expecting?
I had a different athlete in mind.
Okay.
But I agree with you, Brooke Wells, whenever you mention handstand push-ups. So hers is more controversy, right? So hers is a little bit more movement standard issue. Yeah. So people, debate. She has the capacity. We don't argue that she has the capacity.
So did you actually mean our man that adopted the doing handstand push-ups on your fists, Jacob Heppner?
Oh, no. No. It's right. I'm thinking of Laura Horvath.
Of course.
This has basically ruined multiple competitions for her.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when she finished second in the games, there were no handstand push-ups that year. Or definitely no strict handstand push-ups. I have a feeling they didn't show up.
I feel that year, because that was her rookie year, and it was a kind of like, who is this person? And it was amazing to watch. And then in this subsequent season is where she was just starting to kind of come undone whenever handstand push-ups appeared.
And I mean, to the point where there have been events where she could not get one deficit handstand push-ups. I think last year, right, Rogue last year, they had deficit handstand push-ups, and she just couldn't do it. She may have got one rep, but like one rep, that was it. And I know she's been working on it, and it always gets mentioned. But as soon as you see that, you do wonder, oh no, is this the kiss of death for Laura Horvath? Is this game over? She did struggle with them, but I thought she did a good job. She kept moving through them. They didn't stop her, but they slowed her down to a point that she was never going to recover from that in that event. But you're right, it's funny, because now that you mention it, you've got Brooke, you've got Heppner. Heppner's fine because the standard wasn't the crazy open standard that's what undid him. Noah Olsen, the speed of his handstand push-ups was unbelievable. And that like catapulted him ahead of others when they got to that. But it was BKG that was consistent throughout. And I think that epitomizes him in my mind, that he is methodical and consistent. And again, we don't mention his name very much because he doesn't get many event wins, but he's always near the top. And then that shakes out that last year at the games. That's exactly what happened. And this year again, now at Rogue, it's the same thing. It's just he's consistent across the board.
Yeah.
So when you have a chipper that's got these different movements and he is consistent across them, it actually shakes out with an event win for him. So it's pretty
and
impressive.
I suppose that's the thing, and he is like, his work ethic is consistent and he's constantly there, rarely outside the top 10 in events, which means he's often vying for the podium. And it's not a criticism, it's just an observation. It means it's not overly exciting, though, for that reason. And that's not to diminish his capability, but it means that he doesn't create drama by coming first when it wasn't expected, or having an absolute nightmare when, he should have been near the top, because he is consistent and he delivers what's expected. And I guess with a chipper like this, where there's so many areas to kind of like have a nightmare, you say, no, Noah just flew through his handstand push-ups, but something like this with so many movements, it's where consistency pays off, because there's essentially like multiple events in there potentially. So what you need to be able to do is just set a pace and work through it.
And I think that was an observation on the final row, the first row and the final row, that those that were getting the top times, their final row was almost, the same as their initial row, right? And I mean, that's something that's very hard to do, that first row to hold back. I mean, because it's not that they were able to row, at the end of a chipper at the same pace as when they came in fresh because they're that good. It's because they obviously held back a lot on that initial row because they knew they had a mass load of reps to get through. So those that have that ability to, hold themselves to a certain pace, know where they need to be, know how long it's going to take, know when to take breaks. I mean, you're talking of exciting competitors. And, that's not exciting, is it? Noah Olsen, like, shooting out of a cannon in an event is exciting because the whole time you're like, is he going to maintain this pace? And notoriously he doesn't, right? Again, Noah's a fantastic athlete, but that is his, that has always been like his stumbling block. Was it seemed like he was 110% all the time, and at the games, when it came out to do that event when he was I forget what it was it Mary
or Cindy or whichever one Mary,
Mary, right?
So
it did Mary, and he just came out at this blistering pace, and it was like, he's not going to hold that, right? He's not going to hold that, and he did, and it was him and Fraser neck and neck all the way to the end, him with the leader's jersey holding this insane pace. That's exciting. The problem is that backfires most of the time.
The other person that I think would have done really well at this, if they were at the Invitational, would have been the Professor Brett Fikowski, because it's the Professor. It's about looking at that and going, right, make a plan and stick to it. It's a bit of a separate one because to talk about people who weren't there, but I wonder what this type of environment would have been like for someone like Brent, who has such a kind of rigorous strategic approach. It might have worked, but then he might have not known whether it was completely right or anything. So, it's that worry that it would have gone to plan, but the plan might not have been good enough.
Yeah. And I mean, he's tall, so those box step overs would have been easy for him. So that's...
Well, and I think that's the thing, especially off the back of the squat cleans in the row, they're doing this kind of really like the top end range of motion, stepping over that box. It definitely had that ability to really start to cause a bit of kind of cramping, lactic acid buildup, the desire to stop, shake the legs out. So, that efficiency of movement is really important, or just being really tall.
Yeah, there was someone on the men's side, I think it was Blair Chapman. He got capped with 51 reps. You saw him, as you said, like break that. He was stretching out his legs. He was leaning on the box, trying to kind of do anything he could. Then he'd get maybe one more clean and then have to stretch out again. Like, that's where you could see the accumulation. Because again, like, this would destroy you when you go into it fresh.
Yeah.
When you've just done a whole day of competition the day before, and you've maxed out your clean and jerk as well. You're not going into this fresh. This is just, I mean, it's incredible what they can do, like the punishment their bodies can take. I'm not sure what that says about longevity, but but it
Yeah.
makes an interesting race.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot more we could kind of say on event 5. We haven't really talked about the females at all on that one yet. You know, Sarah, unsurprisingly performing well in that again. A bit of a workhorse, just kind of working through that consistently, able to kind of keep going. I did see Sam Briggs was down in 10th for this one. She didn't do great in the clean and jerk lift off, but that was kind of to be expected. She actually openly said herself that, like, I haven't lifted more than like 100 and something pounds, since she did her ankle. But to see her a bit lower on this one was it day one showing its effect?
What, 211 power snatches probably did something, didn't it? Yeah, I think it was. And as you said, like, having done a heavy barbell just before this, which, I mentioned before, when you talk of a barbell and Sam Briggs, they're two different conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So she's already, she really went for it day one. She's just gone through kind of the worst thing for her. So she has the engine to go through this, but probably the body is feeling pretty beat up from everything else that's happened. And this is, all of these movements are triggering those same areas, right? That's the problem, isn't it, really? But yeah, on the women's side, as you said, Sarah won, Tia came second. So again, she's just, she's first or second pretty much consistently across the weekend. Cara Saunders was in fourth, again, impressive. Hayley Adams is in fifth. So this, the same names are up there at the top end. Katrin did pretty well on this one as well. She came just above Briggs. Brooke Wells, I think she started strong, but started to kind of drop off. Probably was the handstand push-ups that undid her. It was difficult to follow everyone, admittedly, because the screens were quite small. As you're watching, so unless they kind of zoomed in on a particular athlete, it wasn't always easy to see at what area, kind of at what point people were struggling, unless it was so noticeable that they commentated on it. So that was that was one thing. But no, a great event, a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, because I think some of the earlier events, they were able to kind of like reduce the number of athletes on the screen as they kind of like dropped out or eliminated. But obviously with the chipper, they kind of, you stick with the full 9 for the full kind of 20 minutes or however long it was. So but there we go. So final event then, a short one. We go back to kind of like I believe the shortest event actually of the weekend. Event 6 was again a 21:15.9 couplet, this time of deadlifts and overhead squats, with the deadlifts at 125 kilos for men, or 275 pounds, and 84 kilos for women, 185 pounds. And then the overhead squats were nothing to be kind of laughed at around 70 kilos, 155 pounds for the men, and 48, just shy of 50 kilos, or 105 pounds for the women. So I think Chase Ingram kind of said it, go unbroken or bust, and there were definitely a good few examples of lighting the fuse and giving it everything you got.
Yeah, it's an event where you can break up the deadlifts. Breaking up a deadlift is neither here nor there, is it really? Taking a few seconds of breath before you grab the bar again, it doesn't change much. Breaking up an overhead squat is a whole nother, that's another snatch basically, isn't it? That you've got to do. So strategy wise, it was break on the deadlifts, go unbroken on the overhead squats. The weight, as you said, was slightly heavier than you probably train with usually doing these kind of, it's that weight that's like, it's not the heaviest you'll ever have done any of those movements, but you'll normally do heavy, small reps. Lighter, you'll do these kind of 21:15.9s, and I feel like this weight just pushed it that little bit over what you'd normally do 21 unbroken on of this kind of a movement, which does put an athlete in that position of, well, I can definitely do this weight and I can do multiple reps. Can I do it unbroken? And if I do it unbroken, how is that going to affect the next set? And how are the deadlifts going to then affect my overhead squat? Put on top of that all the work they've done over the last 2 days. But Colton,
your man,
my man, this was insane. 2 minutes 42.
Get him on the podcast.
I want him on the podcast. I'll reach out to him and say, look, seeing as nobody felt the need to talk to you at Rogue, come and talk to me. Yeah, incredible. So second place was Noah at 3 minutes 30. So he was a good 50 seconds faster. Now, 50 seconds, doesn't sound like a lot when you've done a chipper that was 15 minutes. But when you're finishing an event in under 3 minutes, 50 seconds is a lifetime, right? Like, no one is catching you at that point. That it was just, he broke on the final set of 9 deadlifts twice. That was it. Everything else was unbroken. And it was just, and it was even like smooth across the board as well.
His overhead squats were beautiful to watch. I think there was maybe one step back at some point, but it just looked really comfortable. And I know what you were saying about, is that kind of 155 pounds, slightly heavier than you'd normally Metcon an overhead squat at. Maybe it's wrong to call it a Metcon, but it's the high 45 reps in total in less than 3 minutes, right? So it's a lot of reps, but it sits in that middle ground. Maybe initially be like 40, 50 kilos, 60 kilos was becoming the norm on RX now, but then that 70 is that little bit more. But he just looked so comfortable in that. I've no idea what his kind of snatch is like in terms of weight, but he's got
it's got to be high, right? It's got to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was incredible, and it was, it's those wrenches that get thrown in as well that can really shake up the leaderboard, right? Because he wasn't vying for a top 3 position, like that wasn't on the cards. I mean, he got the event win. It doesn't matter if he gets the event win. There was no way that was going to change anything. But it could affect, well, not the top spot. Pat pretty much had it in the bag before going into the event. But particularly second and third, there was wiggle room to move up and down the table. Noah put in a great performance. Velna came third. So again, showing why he won basically the day. BKG came fourth. I mean, he's again, that name gets mentioned. You think he's boring, but he's there again, right? He's always up there.
Yeah.
Chandler Smith did what? Chandler Smith was really, so he was somebody that could have inched into that kind of top 3 spot. I think it was him and Noah that were kind of
vying for third,
battling it out. And Noah came second and he got 95 points. So this event, the point scoring was very tight. So you were not overly rewarded for winning. And you were also not punished for a poorer event, which meant it was a lot closer at the top of the table, but also at the same time, like an event win was not going to catapult you so far ahead. So it just made it that consistency that we're talking about, that I was talking about, really was key for this whole event, actually, the whole day.
And going back to something you were saying about kind of weightlifting, we saw examples of kind of brute strength getting people well up the leaderboard in event 4, but with like the 70 kilo overhead squat at high reps, technique and the technician was rewarded there because it was more around efficiency of kind of movement, because once you've got that, you need that strength in the shoulders, which all of these top level athletes should have, but it was more then around being able to make sure that barbell stayed above the midline and enable, and the balls of the feet, and enabled you to kind of just move efficiently up and down through the full range of motion. That strength actually wasn't going to help you too much, really, to kind of get through those efficiently and ideally unbroken.
Yeah, if you look at Laura Horvath, for example, she's got very good overhead mobility, and I wonder if that plays into some of the issues she has with the handstand press ups. Maybe that the way she's trained in the past, that's given her this great mobility, but maybe has somehow negatively impacted her overhead pushing and in that one particular position. I don't know. Might be completely unrelated, but you notice that she had a very not narrow, but comparatively narrow grip on the bar, which is actually, if you can get in that position, really good. It helps you to, it's a nice, smooth. Majority of people just can't do that because, when you're that narrow, it just pulls you forward. But you could see that. I'm pretty sure someone commented on it during the event. I mean, she came third in that. So again, she wasn't completely out of the game, which was good. She bounced back from that, disappointing event 5, which is something you've got to appreciate about her, that she's got that weakness, but she doesn't let it define her, and she kind of comes back strong. Tia won the event.
Yeah.
I don't say unsurprisingly, but yeah.
Starting and finishing dominant.
Yeah. And I think Cara was 5th. So
yeah,
again, super impressive from her across the whole weekend. And again, at ridiculously early times of the morning.
Yeah, and I think that's like, I mean, you kind of said not only the time difference, but also the change in her life with the kind of a young baby but then just to kind of consistently perform, which then reflected on her finishing 3rd on the leaderboard overall.
Yeah.
So.
I mean that leaderboard, now that I cannot find it. Here we are. Yeah, so she was very close with Jamie. So that was sort of, they were having that little battle. Sarah as well. I mean, the points. So what Sarah had 555 points total at the end. Cara had 540. So 15 points is not a lot in this game. Whereas Tia 630. So she was nice and comfortable at the top of the leaderboard. But I mean that. Looking at the top 5, Laura came in 5th. So she had that bad performance with the handstand push-ups, but it didn't ruin her. And that's quite important. So if she can, and she has, you can see, as competitions are going along, she has improved and she's working on it, and it takes time. So we can't expect, there's a lot of criticism like, oh, she knows she's got this weakness, why doesn't she work on it? She's clearly working on it, but go and add 50 kilos to your back squat. You're not going to do it overnight, right? It takes a lot of time to build up. It's no different with this. But yeah, she came 5th. Jamie, former Green, now Simmons, came 4th. So no surprise considering her performance at the games. And then Cara on the podium. Like, that's incredible.
Absolutely.
Cara's there. Sarah's there, which is probably where people really feel she belongs. And Tia, I mean, again, Tia, if you look at games performance, how dominant she was, it's no surprise. I mean, she's crushing wherever she goes at the moment, right? So, it has flipped a little bit, the men's and women's competition, right? It used to be the men's was kind of all locked up and the women's was very close. And that sort of had started to change with the new format and Noah being so close to Fraser at the games last year. But it looks like it's shifting back anyway. But yeah, Tia absolutely crushed it. And the men's side, even closer, like insanely close. Well, Velner was on 630. So I think he got exactly the same amount of points as Tia. So he won just as dominantly. And I think that's important because I mean, I might be wrong. You tell me, but you haven't seen that from anyone other than Fraser, right?
Yeah, it's really true.
Nobody else dominates a competition. They win. Sometimes they win comfortably, but it's rare you're going into the final event being like, well, they've got it, right? All they need to do is just show up and they've won, kind of thing. When Fraser did that, that was sort of the, because even Rich, in all his career of winning, he only ever kind of went as hard as he needed to, by the looks of things. And quite often after day one, he didn't have it wrapped up. He was kind of a comeback multiple times, right? So Velner putting in a performance like this and being like, don't worry, I've got this.
Yeah.
That sends a message, right?
I'm sure. Actually, having said that, I was going to say, I'm sure Matt Fraser watched this closely, but I feel like I've seen an interview with him where he's like, maybe not. I think, we know how focused he is and on his own training, and we haven't kind of got into the fact that Matt Fraser wasn't there, and that I don't want to do a disservice to all the athletes that are there being like, oh well, Matt wasn't there, because I don't think that's right. But he clearly decided not to train, not because he was injured, but because an injury had prevented him from preparing for it. And one argument by, well, why wouldn't you compete anyway? But we know that he has this approach of like, if it's not first, then it's last. Anything other than first is last. So for him, it wasn't worth. That's maybe not the right words to use, but
well, he's not going to go in unless,
yeah,
if he's going in 100%, what he doesn't want is to be beaten.
Yeah.
And there be an excuse, basically, right? That's and I kind of, it's actually how I felt last year. I would have loved to see Noah win, but I think it would have been the worst win for him because everybody would have just, well, you didn't really win. It was you won the format, but you didn't beat him. And I kind of felt like I would love him to win, but it would be a bitter tasting victory. And I think the same here. If he'd gone and Pat had still done what he did and won, it would, just be, well, Fraser wasn't 100%. He didn't really get a train. And I just, better that he wasn't there.
And so you should focus really on, like say, a really strong performance and that is rarely, if ever, done by an athlete outside of Matt Fraser in recent years of just going in and really just wrapping it up before the final event was even on the cards. Yeah.
And then, second and third was BKG and Noah, both on 555 points. So it was only the tiebreak, I think, because of the event wins that BKG had gotten that allowed him to take second.
Mr. Consistent paying dividends.
He's there again. Chandler Smith taking fourth, which is great. Saxon Panchek came fifth. And I think that's interesting because I feel like he's another guy who he didn't have a great performance in the Open, and he's been to a couple of competitions and he hasn't really shone through, but he was top 10 at the games, which again, and I feel like whenever someone didn't perform well in the Open or didn't perform well at a competition who was in the top 10 at the games, it was just more ammunition for, well, you see, it proves the cuts didn't work. It proves they weren't the best 10. It proves it. So having him finish top 5, that's really good because it shows that, look, when he needs to, he can compete at an elite level. He deserved to be in that because I think he's a good sprinter. And I kind of feel like that's where there was this sort of, there was multiple running events before the cuts and that's what got him in.
And he's young as well, right? He can't be much over 21, if that, right?
No, he's a young lad, yeah.
So he's like say another one like Haley Adams going to be around for a while, and we'll see strength increase, no doubt. And he's already bloody strong. So it's going to see how. Now the question might be: is he going to evolve into a Noah, Chandler Smith, that type of character, where an entertainer? Or someone more like BKG who is just like consistently performing very well and starting to appear more and more on the podium?
I think the second, only because of, this is going to sound strange to say because I think now of my brother and how opposite we are. But I think, having Scott kind of as a figure to listen to, someone who's got the experience, has been there, and Scott's another pretty consistent guy. He's all. There's a reason Rich invited him to join the team, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't extend that invitation just to anybody. It's somebody who puts up a pretty impressive performance and is an all-rounder. And I kind of feel like that's probably the advice Saxon's getting given, right? Is do that, kind of. Yes, it's entertaining to go super hard in one event, but not at the expense of the next 2-3 events, right? So we'll see. Only time will tell. As you said, he's young and he's got a lot ahead of him. Hepner came 7th, so he did really well considering we mentioned a few poor performances. He also had some really good performances. So he's that kind you're talking about, right? Puts up some super entertaining performances, but then also some entertaining for the wrong reason performances.
And, he's also really good. Actually, he's got some really good kind of. He's one of these YouTube kind of people, so he puts out some good reflective pieces, and he's got some stuff up at the moment. Kind of trash talk. He's always the trash talker as well, right? So he's eating like a maple donut, asking kind of like baiting Bellner. It's like, is this what you do in north of the wall? So, I recommend if you're looking for some light entertainment from an elite level CrossFitter, then Jacob Hettner is the first place to go, really.
Yeah, I saw he took a few shots at Colton as well about his height. I think was one of the things. Well, he came 9th, by the way. So top 10, which is great. Yeah. Ben Smith came 10th. So as I said, not on the podium, not expecting that, but I mean, he's been to the games 11 times.
Yeah. And then he's off the back of a knee surgery, was it?
Yeah, and then I think he had a kid as well. So a lot going on in Ben's life, but he's just a consistent performer. This is what I was saying at the start. Like Rogue, they don't care about the invite. Who cares? Like, it's almost the games, right?
Mm.
Getting an invite to the games from Rogue is just the cherry on the cake. Like, being at Rogue is already the prize.
Well, they had the Legends division as well last year, right? Yeah. So that was special, and I do remember thinking, I think maybe was it in May last year or whenever it was. I was trying to I floated the idea with my wife of being like, maybe we could go to Ohio, and I'm glad we didn't arrange to go because it didn't happen, obviously, but I still think it would just be a mecca of that level kind of sport to kind of go and see that. I've been fortunate to go to actually go to Ohio and spend time in Columbus. So I think Rogue have moved now, but I've been to the kind of Rogue store where it was originally, and it's just down the road, I think, from CrossFit Grandview and things like that. And it's just, it's an amazing place to be. I'd love to go back now because it's been a number of years and to see how the Rogue Iron game to go larger. So you've got the powerlifting and you've got the strongman element that they also were giving features out over the weekend in their footage. That's Columbus is just the heart of that, right? And you got the Arnold Classic and things like that. So it's really cool.
I mean, you're clearly a well-traveled man, more so than me.
But there we go. I mean, just I guess, finishing up event 6, what a treat of some awesome kind of elite level kind of CrossFit we had over the weekend.
Yeah, and as I said, I hadn't realized how much I'd missed it. But it was, I actually watched it all pretty much live, which, again, with YouTube, it's very easy to go in a bit late and just kind of binge it all once it's all done. It just sort of timed out really well with me putting my daughter to bed. So I was just sitting there trying to put her to sleep with this on in the background. And then I went back and watched the few events that, I really wanted to take notes on almost. But it was just nice to have something to watch. And we've skirted around the controversies of CrossFit at the moment. It was nice to just have something enjoyable and positive, and everybody was happy to see it. And I'll be honest, that was one thing. There were a few negative comments on YouTube that just rile me up a little bit. Like what they did to put this on for free. You're at home for free, watch it on YouTube. And there was occasionally a camera would go out or something, or there'd be some lag, and why did they even bother? This is, we can't see anything. Really? For free, you're complaining about this?
It's all too easy to kind of action your fingers on the keyboard without really thinking, and we see it all the time on various social media platforms, and I was about to make some joke and that this will get loads of comments like that. No, it won't, because nobody will watch it, but especially not this far into it. If you're still watching now, make a comment. It's amazing to be offered for free and like without kind of going into loads of detail, all the controversy going on within the CrossFit kind of sphere right now, is it just shows that there's this fundamental love of the sport, love of the community, respect for the athletes, and that will have no doubt continue in whatever shape or form in the months and years to come. And as we start to get back to our boxes, to our gyms, we'll remember how much, we love the community, and just like forgetting about the worries of the world and sweating it out together.
Very poignant. I wanted to add something, but I thought, I'll just sit back and let you.
Well, no, no. Actually, what I was going to say is saying, more competition in the months and years to come is I've no idea what's in store for the rest of this season. I don't really feel there is a season anymore. I look forward to some sort of showcase later in the year potentially. And I know there's a lot of kind of controversy around that, why athletes will boycott it. But I think what Rogue have done outside of any affiliation to CrossFit have shown that, there's a forum for kind of showcasing and enabling kind of elite level, kind of sport, and I think that's awesome. One thing I did see though is that to think about what we've got coming in the near future is we've got the teams competition that's been put on by CrossFit Mayhem. Rich Froning and friends are kind of getting that ready, and I think that's in early August, so kind of get that in the diary.
Yeah, and I think they're doing a similar, I didn't know you were going to spring this on us, so I haven't got it to hand, but a similar thing is happening with the age groups as well.
Yeah.
They've been kind of taken over by a few different competitions that have sort of divided them up. I think one is going to be focusing on the masters athletes, and one on the teen division, and then, as you mentioned, teams with Froning. And it makes sense because it's a bit like at the games last year. If you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff, you'll see that like Briggs and Sigmund's daughter and that, they all went off and did some kind of crazy like triathlon and different stuff. And I think Sam was saying, we've trained all year for this. We've got all this fitness. We need to use it. Like you're peaking for the games, right? Yeah. And now what do you do? And it's all kind of pent up, and they need to release it. And it's no different for this, right? Everybody is trained to get there, and they got there. Like, you got your invitation. It wasn't like it got cancelled so you didn't have to qualify. You qualified. That was, for a lot of people, and especially with people like Fraser in the sphere of competition, your goal ultimately is to get to the games, right? Winning the games is another level, right? But getting to the games is already like a bucket list thing.
Yeah.
And you did it. You got your invite. You are going to the CrossFit Games. Congratulations. Oh, wait, no, you're not. It's like, that's devastating. So the idea of there being something for those people it's really nice. How all of it will happen is yet to be seen. But this is a really good, what Rogue have been able to pull off is a great indication that things can happen.
Yeah.
And anyway, lockdown is generally easing up globally. Whether or not there are resurgences and spikes, and that could affect competitions, but I kind of feel like those things will be more localized. So there is a chance you will see a competition cancelled or postponed. I doubt we're going to see a similar like mass cancellation postponement like we saw this time. That seems
I think I imagine events will be more hesitant to overcommit to something that they're not guaranteed that they can kind of provide, especially when you consider in the back room they're going to be thinking about insurance and things like that, and that whole world is going to be different. Rogue have definitely set that bar high when they have that kind of like that power behind them to kind of not only kind of logistics, which is just their bread and butter, but also then the kind of like production level quality. And let's say that the 2019 CrossFit Games, where media production was kind of freelanced out, gave Rogue an opportunity to kind of create their Iron Game channel, and they were able to use that there. So let's see what else we see coming through from other events, because I think there's never a shortage of people willing to try their hand and step into any sort of vacuum left by changes made at very short notice by the powers that were at be in the CrossFit sphere.
Yeah, I mean, if once you've bought your cameras and you've hired your crew and you've got your equipment, you've got it, right? You might as well use it.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see this again. I mean, maybe they can step in. If you've got a competition that's struggling, that going to need help, perhaps Rogue will be there to. They've sponsored a lot of competitions in the past.
Yeah.
This could be a form of sponsorship here, isn't it? And I suppose if they're getting views on their channels and people going to them, that's bringing in revenue as well. So there is a benefit for them doing it. So watch this space, I suppose. Is that
I know we're treading into a whole new topic of the future of competitive CrossFit, or the future of the competitive sport previously known as CrossFit. So we can save that topic for another time. But an awesome treat of some finally elite level CrossFit. After 3 months of nothing. So great to kind of sit down with you and talk it through of the highs and lows of those amazing athletes.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what survives the edit, and when this comes out as a 10-minute video.
I'm not an editor, right? I don't even bother. What am I? I'm a kind of producer. So let's just see what happens.
Hey, I got called a broadcaster on our last episode of the podcast. I was shocked. I corrected them immediately.
Yeah. So no, thanks very much, and let's make sure we keep an eye on for the next competition, and we'll have to make sure we debrief again.
Yeah, I look forward to it.